the Cinque Terre. So the reason for our trip was my husband's family from the US was coming into town for his grandma's 80th birthday. And so we decided to head to the Cinque Terre a couple days early before the whole group got there. The first portion of our trip, we decided we wanted to actually stay in the Cinque Terre. And one thing to note if you're going to stay in one of the 5 towns is you need to be prepared for a lot of tourists. And we wanted to experience the Cinque Terre firsthand, so we chose to stay in Monterosso, which I'll talk about a little later. And once my husband's family arrived, we had a larger group of about 15 people. We decided to stay outside of the Cinque Terre in a town called Rapallo. If you haven't heard of the Cinque Terre, I'm sure you've seen pictures on Instagram, maybe different pieces of artwork in magazines, pictures. So the Cinque Terre is 5 villages. From north to south, the villages are Monterosso, Vernazza, Reniglia, Manarola, and Rio Maggiore. The 5 villages are located on a big stretch of the Italian coast in the Italian Riviera. It's famous for its coastal villages with very breathtaking and picturesque views of the towns from all different vantage points. So I'm sure if you've seen pictures of the Cinque Terre, you've seen different viewpoints of all the houses and the cliffs that are in the villages. There's only about 7,000 people who live in the Cinque Terre, but there's hundreds of thousands of people who visit the Cinque Terre as tourists every year. So one of the reasons we chose to stay in Rapallo was because of our larger group. We thought it would be a lot easier and convenient to stay outside of the Cinque Terre, so we had a quieter home base, and if we wanted to go into the villages, we could spend more busy days there. Rapallo is a very popular travel spot for the Italians rather than tourists coming into town, so it's easier to get reservations, to get around on the trains, ferries, and buses. Rapallo is a very colorful town. All the buildings are also very colorful. You have the sea, you have the harbor full of beautiful yachts, you have an awesome picturesque viewpoint of the mountains around you. One really cool thing about Rapallo is a lot of the buildings trick your eye into thinking there's arches and different portals and brickwork on the buildings, but actually they're just decorative details that are hand painted on there. We learned that in the 18th century, people were adding these decorative details to make it look like there were windows so they could avoid the taxes back then. So once you walk through Rapallo and Cinque Terre, you'll notice a lot of these hand-painted details on the buildings. It was cool because we were there at the end of June, early July, before tourist season. We did see a lot of people hand painting while we were there. Another nice feature about Rapallo was you were right outside the Cinque Terre. It was about a 45-minute train ride into Monterosso, which I mentioned was the northern village. So once you get into the 5 villages, you can take the Cinque Terre Express, which runs 5 to 10 minutes between each village, and it's super cheap. So I think it's about €5 a day. So if you wanted to village hop, you could easily do that. At dinner the first night in Rapallo, our waitress was a local, and she recommended we go to a beach club in the north side of Rapallo called the Bagni Lido. So we spent a full day at the beach. We rented chairs, had lunch and drinks there. Staying in Rapallo, there's plenty of ferries that you can take from the harbor. One day we took a ferry to Portofino. Once you're in Portofino, it's about a 35-minute ferry away from Rapallo. In Portofino, you can walk around the beautiful square and people watch, grab a cup of coffee, visit the churches, or bring your swimsuit and visit the hidden beaches. One fun fact about Portofino is Kourtney Kardashian and Travis Barker got married there. Once you arrive into Portofino in the harbor, right above the harbor is their wedding venue. After doing research about the Cinque Terre, I decided that we are going to stay in Monterosso, which is the largest of the 5 towns. We thought Monterosso would be a good home base because there's a lot more hospitality options, accommodation, restaurant, and activity. It also has the largest beaches in the Cinque Terre, so we thought that was a good activity or something we could do during the day. Monterosso is split between the new town and the old town. So once you get off the train, you enter the new town, which has a bunch of public beaches and private beaches. Anywhere that you see an umbrella or a chair to lay out in, that would be a private beach. One thing that was really cool we noticed about the private beaches is you buy a ticket, and that ticket grants you your chair and umbrella for the entirety of the day. So if you wanted to pop out and go grab lunch, grab a drink, go shopping on the Newtown Promenade, you can come back to the private beach and your chair is guaranteed to be yours for the rest of the day. So we did that for one day, and it was really convenient to kind of have our own space and our own landing spot for the day. There's also, as I mentioned, the public beaches, so you can bring a towel. It's a sandy beach. It's one of the only sandy beaches in the Cinque Terre, so you can come hang out there for free. To get to the old town, you pass through a tunnel that separates the new and the old town. So once you enter the old town, it is surrounded by walls from the fortress, which is the Aurora Tower. So once you enter into the old town, you'll see the Aurora Tower right away. It also is known for its winding streets, very colorful and picturesque houses that are on top of each other, and very, very steep stone staircases. So as we were looking to find accommodation, we decided to stay at an Airbnb called Casa Andrea. It's a lady who decided to move actually from Milan 20 years ago into the Cinque Terre and buy property to have her own Airbnbs, and she named it after her daughter, Andrea, so it's Casa Andrea. We really enjoyed Casa Andrea and we thought it was a great stay. The host was very friendly. She had amazing views from the Airbnb spots, and our room was updated, super modern and nice. But before booking, we didn't realize what the route would be to take us up to Casa Andrea. So once you pass through the tunnel, you walk about 10 minutes to the bottom of the steps, and the stone steps will lead you up to Casa Andrea. So it's maybe about 100 steps. We had our daughter who had a stroller, and so we brought the stroller, which turns into a car seat, up the steps, plus our luggage. So if you are planning to travel light, I think it'll be completely fine. But if you have extra baggage or suitcases that you're bringing, just keep that in mind. Andrea offered to come down and help, but just something to be wary. A couple of specific things you can do in Monterosso is there's a lot of souvenir shops. So once you walk into the old town, you'll see shops after shops, but I would recommend, if you're trying to buy any souvenirs, keep walking through the town and you'll see a lot of the same objects. So I would just go further away from the beach and you'll find a lot cheaper items. There are plenty of souvenir shops full of handcrafted items like ornaments. I bought a hand-painted glass lemon ornament. Every trip we go on, we like to collect an ornament for our Christmas tree. You can also buy olive oil. They have a lot of products that are lemon based. They have a lot of olive and lemon trees in Cinque Terre, so you'll see a lot of products that are similar to those items. Could also go shopping. There's plenty of designers that are selling Italian purses or Italian shoes. One of the days we were there, they had a little market, so local designers were coming out selling their goods. If you're more outdoorsy and looking for something to do outside, there is a hike between the 5 villages. It's called the Blue Trail. The Blue Trail starts in Monterosso and will take you through the rest of the 5 towns in the Cinque Terre. Something that we did specifically was we went on a wine tour to Bianco Winery, and it actually was really close to our Airbnb, so we got to see the vineyards from a glance. And it's very beautiful. We heard the story of the family. The owner now inherited it from her father, so it's a generational winery, which was really cool. Since we stayed in Monterosso, we were able to easily do day trips or make quick visits to the other villages. One night we decided to go to Rio Maggiore. We had friends who lived in Rio Maggiore for 3 months, so they gave us loads of recommendations, and one being a Cliff restaurant and bar. So once you get off the train station, right behind it, there are steps that will take you up to the restaurant. It has beautiful views of the cliffs and the ocean. While we were there, we did some wine tasting of the Cinque Terre local wine. After we went to the Cliff restaurant, we decided to head to Rio Maggiore and get dinner. I would definitely bring your walking shoes as it's very hilly and lots of steps as well. We went to dinner at a restaurant near the Church of San Giovanni Battista. It's a great spot to watch the sunset. It had great views also. Some really popular things to do in Rio Maggiore: rent kayaks, rent boats. There were a lot of boats right in the harbor, so as you walk up the steps to one of the most popular vantage points in Rio Maggiore, you'll see the beautiful boats. I would highly recommend going to a gelato shop on top of the cliffs in Rio Maggiore. We also spent an afternoon in Manarola. Manarola does not have a beach, but it has a harbor where there's tons of people cliff jumping, swimming, and laying out. There's also another vantage point right around the cliffs, and there's a restaurant up there that also overlooks the harbor, and it's another great spot if you wanted to watch the sunset or just people watch. I would highly recommend downloading the Trenitalia app before you arrive in Italy. It's much more convenient to have the Trenitalia app on your phone so you can see the times of the departures of the trains. It's a lot more up to date than Google Maps. I also would not recommend renting a car while you're there. There's not a lot of parking in Cinque Terre, so it doesn't make sense to rent a car. If you're planning to visit Cinque Terre or were just watching this video for fun, I hope you found it useful and informational. Thanks for watching.